Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Derek Molacek, adjunct faculty at Iowa Western Community College in Applied Low Brass. Today, we will be having our second lesson over J.E. Barat's Andante et Allegro. In the first lesson, we discussed playing the Allegro section, the first part. We talked about the difference in articulations between the dotted 8/16ths and the triplets. For this lesson, we are focusing on the poco più lento section. This is the sharpest contrast in the Allegro of the Barat Andante et Allegro, because this goes back towards our original Andante concept and a lot more lyrical playing, something that we don't see throughout the rest of this piece, in either the first part, or the second part. When performing this, the marking is the poco più lento, so it means just a little bit slower. I tend to take this around quarter note equals 120, regardless of how fast I'm playing the Allegro section. As it looks like this on the metronome, and sounds like this. It is advisable to do it a little bit slower too, to bring out the difference in the articulations. In this we have two different types of articulations. We have our legato phrase slur markings that are marked as smooth and almost seen as slurred, but just more, I think, of a closer legato tongue, more connected, like this. This is where you really have to pay attention to what your intonation sounds like. Also, be mindful of muddiness. With that kind of legato tongue and with that kind of marking, there's a tendency to want to play almost with no tongue at all, in which case you have to be mindful of your quick slide. This way you're not getting so many smears, like on the quarter notes, for example. If you play it like that, you're going to sound like a drunken trombone player. We don't want that at all. Here's the quarter notes again with the legato tongue. You can also play the B flat descending in 5th position. I recommend it because you're already out in that area as is with playing the C flat in 4th, your B natural, and then you can use the natural slur when you come back for the A flat. Also be mindful of dynamics here too. There are some huge crescendos and decrescendo contrasts going from piano to mezzo forte down all the way to pianissimo. And that next time you play that line, which is minor, you got to play it a lot softer. Have a listen here. With the softer dynamic, that also sets up the contrast in the next section, which goes to a more tenuto marking. With the tenuto markings, with our long articulations over the top, that does not mean we just play them smooth. It means we play them distinctly and separated, rather than ya da da da. With the legato, it's ta 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 ta. And in this case, because we're louder, it's almost more like a bell tone. Be mindful of your intonation when you use the 2nd position trigger for your B natural, and be mindful of the separation of the dynamics. When it comes to the 8th notes, this is where the separation becomes really important. We don't need it as smooth as the other set. So we don't want to play it like this. This is a separate ta 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 tongue. And then again, the tenuto markings once we get to the next phrase. This motion repeats itself throughout the rest of this section, but always getting much more dramatic as it builds. So keep your dynamics lower, maybe even a little bit lower than the recommended mezzo forte marking, so you can get that nice build towards the end of that phrase. It is the last 8 bars of the passage that are critically important to getting that build. This is where we have our mezzo forte building to the triumphant forte. I would even say build it to a fortissimo at the very end to give it much more the dramatic effect. Again, the tenuto and the separation become key. You can even retard just a little bit once you get up to the high B flat. But be very careful of your intonation up there.